Well, good morning. This is Dan from the House of Broken Dobbs Things, and we've got another heated seat to fix. This time it's on the 97 850 turbo wagon, the GLT, and that's kind of my go-to car for everything. Strangely, last week I'm under the S70 working on it. Some strange lady, I have no idea who she was. She was very nice. I had no idea who she was. Came walking up with her dog and she says, "Hey mister, how about that wagon? Can I buy it?" I'm like, and trust me, the wagon is nothing to look at. It's all function and less form. And I said, "No ma'am, several people have asked to buy it." She said, "Well, I would just love to have it because it's a fantastic vehicle." I'm like, "Well," she said, "Well, how many miles are on it?" I said, 160. She says, "It's just a baby." I said, "Yep." So I look forward to many, many, many more years with that old girl, because it hauls stuff you can't imagine it can haul. It drives great. When the snow is flying, it always gets me home. So the least I can do for it is to fix the heated seats too, because my new catchphrase on the channel is, "I'm too old and it's too cold. Let's fix it." So heated seats on an 850 wagon. It's an entirely different setup than what we looked at on the S60. Completely low tech. But what I wanted to do is start out here with just looking at a good wiring diagram. I had a hard time finding a good one, and I'm sorry it's a little cattywampus, but I had to blow it up on my copier. But at least maybe it's legible. But I want to go through a couple of things. So we're going to focus on this side right here, just for the argument's sake. This is going to be the left front seat, if you can see that scripting there, and then hopefully you can zoom in on that on your monitor if you need to. Very, very low tech. Alright, there was one small issue with a broken wire. I fixed that. As soon as I powered it up, I think whatever was going on, it just gave up, because from the S60 video you see that the heating element in the seat is going to be flexed like forever. And this is a 97 level car. I mean, it's getting up there. However, I think we can fix it. So let me explain the circuit really quickly. This is something I've done professionally quite a bit, explaining for students and teaching and that kind of a thing. So hopefully I can make it make sense for you. For those of you that are experienced, hey, just kind of hang in there. We'll get to the rest of it in a minute. But for those of you that aren't, who maybe never had to do this or even read a diagram like this, let me go through it. It's actually very good. And it's an easy way to help diagnose things. So before we get too far off, this is the seat switch, the one you see on the center console. So it has two lights. One is the illumination light right here. It's getting power from the interior light system. So you turn the interior lights off. Here it is, this wire, the power comes right to here. It comes down and over and down to this ground. So for every light you have to have power and you have to have a ground. So it has to have a return loop back to the battery ultimately. So the battery is the ultimate source of everything. But let me just do that real quick here. Let me just write it out like B+, which is for battery. And then it has to come down through a circuit and go through some kind of a load. Just like that. And within that load it has to return back to the battery negative. That's it. Now, if you take battery positive and short it to battery negative, that's a dead short. So you need a measured load in the circuit to help control the flow of current and how much current. Just take a jumper cable if you want. No, I'm not being serious. If you short across the battery, what's it do? A big arc and spark. But if you take a same little small light bulb, a turn signal bulb or something like that, and you connect it and you go from battery plus to negative, that light bulb is as of itself a load. It regulates the amount of current. And I can get into Ohm's law. We could spend a lot of time with that one, but let's just keep it simple today. So we have to go from B+ to B negative through a load. Now, switches are not loads. Switches are just connections. So in the case of this one, the left front heated seat switch, you can see it right here. It's got a little toggle. It says off. They normally show its normal state on a diagram. So it's off. So when I turn this on, if you can see that, when I turn that on, perhaps we should Yeah, we'll just go with a pencil for now. I turn this on. This switch is actually moved. It comes down like that. Little arrow, it moves down and it connects this fuse, which is connected to B+, and note the note here. Hot and run. So the key has to be in run position before this fuse is powered. See this squiggly? That's a schematic representation of a fuse. If you overcurrent it, this breaks, and that basically will cut the power from the battery to wherever to load. That's your safety. So if you overcurrent, the fuse pops. So it's like, well, I put a new fuse in it and everything was fine. Only in the most rare of circumstances does that ever work. Usually if a fuse pops, it's coming back sometime very, very soon when you least expect it. So if you have a blown fuse, you need to take a good look at the circuit to figure out if there's an excessive current draw which is causing it to exceed its limit. This in the case it's 25 amps. That's a pretty hefty fuse. So if it pops that one, and again, it's not just powering the seats in this case. You can see a little arrow here. It's powering more than that. But in the case of this one, if this is popped, you need to take a good look at what's going on, because a blown fuse, it's kind of a sucker bet that something else won't be wrong. It can happen, rarely, but it can happen. Okay, going back to this diagram. So the key is on, hot and run. Power comes down through that fuse, all right, fuse number 26. It's 25 amp, fuse 26, 25 amps. It comes down. Anytime there's a dot like this, this is basically showing you that this is a connection or a joint, a union, whichever word you want to use. And the wire color in this one is, I believe, blue and yellow. I'm still catching up with the Volvo terminology in this, but blue and yellow wire coming off the fuse block, coming down to the switch. Okay, this is the driver's side switch. This is the passenger side switch. They are an exact twin. So I'm going to focus on the driver's side because that's the one that's not working right now. And so we have power down. I flipped the switch. The switch has come on and it powers this LED. The arrow on the LED is pointing towards ground. Pointing towards ground. Sometimes there's some other things, but in LED typically current only flows one way. So the power on this one, it's pointing towards ground. It's coming down. Now the LED in of itself, unless it's made properly, it doesn't really have any load protection. That's what this is for. This resistor inside the switch controls the current through this LED. An LED is a diode. So within a diode, it does what it does. But if you don't limit the current some way, it's going to basically blow this out. Trust me, the LED will be the weak link before that 25 amp fuse blows. That diode will just roast itself. So you need something in there to limit the current. So they, in this case, Volvo designed in a resistor. So going back, the switch is on. We power down to here. The LEDs receive power. Its current limiting is done. It comes over and down to this ground. So this is the loop, B+ through the switch. The load in this case is the LED. The LED lights up and the load is controlled by this resistor, and it returns back to B+ or the B-. So from that standpoint, the light is going to come on the LED. So the illumination light is on a wholly different circuit. They both share the same ground though. And we can talk about grounds forever because that often is the big thing that gets everybody when they're diagnosing something. So, switch is on, LED's on, going to ground, the illumination lamp's on, it's dark, and the light comes on with all the interior lights, and right from there. And I mean interior, I mean dash lights. Okay, all the illumination for the dash and cluster. So your gear select, cigarette lighter, all that, or ashtray, all that stuff is going to be powered up. And they're sharing this one, and they have a subnote, passenger side A post. So in the vehicle, typically you have your windshield, then you have another post coming behind the driver's door, go back like this one. The windshield post that goes up, that's typically A, B, and C, however the vehicle is configured, but typically A pillar, B pillar. And if you're a sedan, that's pretty much it. And then they may, depending on who it is, they might describe a C pillar or something. So anyway, switch is on, LED's on, LED's regulated, the switch lights up, which is often the case. Switch lights up, heated seat doesn't work. Oh crap. That's my scenario, okay? Heated seat's not working, switch is on, everything is wonderful. So let's take a look. Switch is on, LED's we have this path for the LED, but we also have this other path, the yellow and red, comes down and it goes to the seat. All right. In the case of this one, it's the left front seat thermostat. Okay. Good luck finding that on your first pass if you don't know where to look. It's in the back of the seat, in the seat, tucked way up inside of it. It looks a little bit like a turn signal flasher on an old school, just round with 2 pins on the bottom. And it acts a lot like a turn signal flasher, except it doesn't pulse as often, but it has the same kind of methodology. So if you come down here, thermostat, let's say it's in the 30s or 40 degrees outside, because once it gets above a certain temperature, it just doesn't work. You come down and the thermostat is in its good position. It's ready to power the seat. It jumps across this connection right here, this switch, so whenever the thermostat kicks out, it goes to this open, no current flow position. But as of right now, everything's good. So the yellow-red, notice here it has a connection. There's a connector. It changes to red-white, and this is under the seat, and I'll show it to you. The red-white wire goes to the thermostat, and it comes out of the thermostat and changes colors again. Now, don't let this confuse you. It's not that bad. So, switch is on. Thermostat's good. I should have B+ power to this red wire. Okay. Now, B+ power to the red wire, that goes into the seat heating pad. So if you watch the S61, it's basically a load. In the case of this, it's a heat generating load. It's going to regulate, but it's going to generate heat as a function of current flowing through it. So this is where you get your warm seat. Now, red comes in, it goes through the circuit, it comes out via a black, well, these are both black on the seat, but don't worry about that. It comes back out as a yellow wire. Again, I'll show you the connector. You can see all of this on the vehicle very clearly, but I want to show you on this before you look at the seat and everything gets confusing. So it goes in the red, goes through the first seat heater pad, okay? This is the bottom one, your bottom seat heater pad. Now, what is cool on this one and a bit conflicting is these heating elements, unlike the S60, these are in series. In other words, just like those Christmas lights that you hated years ago where one bulb goes out and the whole thing doesn't work. Yeah, I like the movie Christmas Vacation too. If this one burns out, well, the current is going to come here into the grid, not make its way through, and just stop. If this one is bad, then the seat backrest will never get its current. So it has to flow through the lower seat, come out, comes out via this yellow wire, goes in the yellow wire to the seat back, goes through the resistive grid, which is very similar to what's on the bottom, and flow out in order to get to ground. In other words, go back to this. Anytime you get confused, here it is. So in this case, it's got B+ right here, coming in and out of the thermostat, B+ right here, battery voltage, and the load is, in this case, it's 2 loads, but they're in series. So in other words, I'm just going to draw a load here, make a connection, and then another load here, and then go to ground. That could be a light bulb. In other words, that could be a light bulb, that could be a light bulb, but they're in series. So one goes out, the other one doesn't work. In this case, that's exactly what's happening on my driver's side. I found it. I fixed a wire right here on the thermostat. One of them was broken. Don't ask me which, because it's very hard to see up in there. And then we came down, and the lower seat pad is bad. It wasn't bad before. It was working for a couple of days, but I think once it had restored current after Lord knows how many years of not working, the current flow basically wicked away at whatever was left and then burned out. That's my theory. We'll find out today. So if the seat heater bottom is functioning, you'll get power to the seat backrest. If it is functioning, then the current will flow to ground. So just like this, B+, and this is bottom. All right, and then this will be the backrest. Okay, it's going to go in this to the load, and they're in series, and it goes to ground, which is going back to the battery. So you have a loop. That's what you need. So in my case, this one is showing up as no continuity. So in other words, there's no way for the current to flow through it, so that takes out the seat bottom and it takes out the seat backrest all in one fell swoop. No matter if I've got power, everything's fine. Now, what's interesting is if you take one of these and now you enter in a ground problem, well, that basically can act like a third load. All right, again, the thermostat is not a load. The load in the circuit is the seat heater bottom and the seat heater back. If there's resistance in this ground, well, that's going to act like another load. All right, another resistive load. So that will cut the power back. So everything could be fine going through both of these, perfect. And then you add in a few more ohms of resistance on a ground, well, that's basically going to add more resistance, so it cuts down your amperage. Okay, let's talk about Ohm's law. Okay, E over I times R. All right, so if I'm going to say this another way, is voltage. Okay, I is current, and then R is resistance. Okay, so if I take current times the resistance, let's say I have 1 amp, okay, and I have, well, essentially 1 amp and 12 volts, well, the resistance is going to be set. So E over I times R, I go, let's see here, 1, and then my resistance would have to be 12, and that would be 1 times 12 would equal 12 volts. Okay, whoa, that's, wait a minute, Dan, you're going crazy. Yeah, let me show you the trick to this. And it is a trick. E over I times R. Okay, whichever one you don't know, cover it with your finger. Just mash your finger right on it. What? Yes, current times resistance is going to give you this. Well, wait a minute, how does that work? Well, if I know voltage and I know resistance, I can tell you the current. What? Yes. So if I take a 12 volts, okay, over 12 ohms, there's the symbol for ohms, not drawn very well, so that's 12 over 12, that is going to give me 1 amp of current flow. Okay? Whoa, well, that's not too bad. Yes. Simple trick, whichever one you don't know, cover it and use what you do have. Well, how does that work? Well, if I want to know resistance, same trick. Okay? E over I times R. Okay? I don't know this one. Well, okay, let's say I don't know this one. Yeah, let's go with that one. 12 volts and 1 amp. I know my current flow. What's that going to be? 12 divided by 1, so my load, my resistance is going to be 12 ohms. Okay? 12 over 12. I don't know this one. Well, that's 1 amp. I have 1 amp times 12 ohms. What's that going to be? 12 volts. So don't let it get in your head, because in this one, let's go one more here. Yeah, let's all right, so let's draw a simplified seat heater circuit really quickly. Okay, B plus, and the reason I'm doing this is so it's easy on the car, you don't have to be staring at the diagram. So B plus, we came in, we know we went to a switch. Okay, normally open switch, it's not on. When I want to turn the seat on, I bridge this gap. That goes to the thermostat. The thermostat is normally connecting through to the seat heater, right? And then there is a second seat heater, and then it goes to ground. Here's the symbol for ground most times. This is ground. Okay, so let me draw a box around this one, box around this one. This is bottom, and this is back. Okay, so this is the thermostat. I'm going to abbreviate it there. So in this one, I switch power on. I send it to the thermostat. The thermostat is normally connected, so it allows the battery voltage to flow through the bottom, goes out, passes through, because these are in series. Okay, and from that one, then it goes to ground. So from that one, we'll wind up with our B plus going through the load, back up to ground. Right, so we actually have a complete circuit. Okay, now as I was mentioning about the ground, what if it has some resistance to it? And grounds are notorious. Corrosion, loose, anything in there, it will also add one more load. So instead of it having, well, let's just say each one of these are 1 ohm. Okay, let's just say 1 ohm. 1 ohm for each of these loads. That's 2 ohms together. In a series circuit, you add. Okay, so 1 ohm, 1 ohm, 2 ohms in that circuit. So if you go back over E over I times R, right, what's that going to do? So I have B plus, right, we'll just call it 12 just for argument's sake, and I have 2 ohms of resistance. I'm going to have what? 12 divided by 2, I'm going to have 6 amps of current flow. Okay, that's what it would be normally. Let's say I throw in 1 more ohm. Let's say that's 12 over 3 because I added 1 more ohm of resistance in the ground circuit. Well, now I'm down to 4 amps. Uh-oh. And as you keep adding more resistance, that current flow keeps going down. Now, what heats the seat is the current flow. Battery voltage can be there all day long. Unless it has current flow, it generates no heat. Oh, all right. So this is extremely important on the ground, getting all the way back. The ground connection is not complete until you get all the way back to the battery. All right, so that's just a couple of dot points on that one, but I wanted to share that with you before we get too far. So what I actually have is a break right there. So battery voltage is coming to the front seat heater. It is never getting to the seat back. So we're going to take a look at that and find out why. I'm betting that it's probably broken inside. It's a 97 vehicle. It's old. It's been sat in tens of thousands of times. So it's probably broken down. But we'll find out. Okay? Hopefully that makes some sense to you. I usually, before I fixed a vehicle professionally, I would take a look at the schematic and understand what I was getting at, because when you start looking at the wires and connectors and all this other stuff, no, you just need to ground yourself in what's going on. This is a very straightforward circuit. I like it a lot. The S60 has got electronics, we've added a module and blah blah blah. 850, this is stone dirt simple. If you have a problem, you should be able to pick it out and resolve it. There's no weird modules, serial communications, data link networks, none of that stuff. So this is why I think a lot of people like to have these cars around. There will be Volvos rolling in the apocalypse. I have absolute faith in that. And an 850 is probably going to be one of them. So from that standpoint, we are going to go out to the vehicle. Hopefully that helps. It seems like a lot of people either need to see it on the vehicle or they need to see it on paper before you get going. But in this case, I just wanted to share it with you because once you're out on the vehicle, it is a bit daunting. These connectors, like right here, you know, these guys, they don't look the same on the vehicle as they look on paper. You can figure it out. The wire colors match. I just wanted to share that with you. This diagram is pretty good. Wire colors match. We can take some readings, we can do some things, but I wanted to explain the circuit first before we get too far. All right, hopefully that helps, and we will bring you back.